We are pleased to welcome Ms. Peng, a legal counsel at the Shenzhen Court of International Arbitration, SCIA, where she has been instrumental in advancing arbitration practices in China. With a Master of Laws in International Arbitration from City of Hong Kong and a strong foundation in both Chinese and international legal systems, Ms. Peng brings a wealth of experience from her roles in corporate legal management and cross-border legal consulting. Her work span equity structuring for startups, investment in financing projects, and legal advisory across Southeast Asia. She has also represented SCIA in international moot competitions and has published on key topics in environmental and investment law. We are honored to welcome Ms. Peng to share her insights on the ADR landscape in China and to contribute meaningfully to today's session. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. And it is my pleasure to be invited to today's event. So firstly, I want to say please forgive me. I look so tired because I just come from the Russian arbitration week. So I just finished a long business trip. And secondly, it is my honor to be invited today to speak, as a representative from the SCIA. Also, maybe I could share some experience based on my previously work experience to say something about the China's arbitration. So previously I received 3 questions from the organization, the KFCRI. So I'm gonna to answer the 3 questions, and after that, if you or during my speech, if you have any question, please feel free to let me know. So the first, by the way, I also want to take 1 minute to introduce the SCIA, the Shenzhen Court of International Arbitration. So usually you may know that in China there are more than 280 arbitration institutions in total. I know it's a so big number, but only some of them could and do have the ability to accept the international cases and manage that kind of cases. So why we say that only some of our institutions could do that? Because most arbitration institutions are established by the Justice Bureau or something, some kind of the government. But only like the SCIA, it is established by the law. There is a unique law which called the Ordinance on Shenzhen Court of International Arbitration. So according to that ordinance, all the major decision made should be by the international council member of the SCIA, not by SCIA internal management. So that's why we say the SCIA is different, because it has the international council member who could help to do something. So that's the most different thing. And also we have some unique creations to be different from other institutions in China. But I won't take more time on that later. So if you have any question or you have interested in the SCIA part, please feel free to contact me. And now return back to my speech today. The first question I want to address is about the Chinese role from the practitioner to co-architect of the global arbitration. So I would like to say, as the recent 20 years development, we could say 2 parts from the China to do something in changing the international arbitration. The first is about from the parties or from the China enterprise. As you may know, there are so many Chinese cross-border companies go abroad and go to the many countries to do the investigation. So as the parties, their requirements, their marketing needs also do some change to the international arbitration. And according to the Belt and Road Initiation, the BRI, over 60% of the BRI disputes in 2022 were solved by the arbitration. For example, the SCIA, we are like 3 years ago or 5 years ago, it only accepted like several thousand cases a year. But in the recent 3 years, it keeps a robust growing rate. Like last year, the SCI has accepted more than 14,000 cases a year, and most of them are from the Belt and Road countries. The parties are from that region. So that's what we can say is the change by the parties from China. And second is like the internationalization of the panels from the institution. For example, Dr. V from KFCRI, he is also the SCI arbitrator. So some institutions in China who try to invite and introduce more foreign arbitrators to into the into the Chinese institutions panel, it can make the foreign arbitrators who know better, who know more about the China's arbitration. Also, we know more things from our foreign arbitrators. So I think that's the two main parts of the change to changing the arbitration part. And second question I want to address about the trends, the digitalization, the third-party funding, and the IP arbitration. That's something new in China. First, it's about the digital things. Especially after the COVID-19, the digital using, like in the case filing part and the online hearing, we exchange submit for the parties who submitted their materials online, and all the things in China has been increased best. For example, in last year, SCI already finished that all the cases could be filed online. And we have more than 60% cases that the parties choose to finish the whole arbitration process online. Like they submitted their materials by SCI's virtual arbitration case system, and they could have held the online hearing by that system. And also for the tribunal could finish their deliberation and also review all the documents submitted by the parties by that system, the case system. The case system is located in SAI inside, so which could keep the confidentiality of the cases. And also the parties could deliver their materials to both tribunal and the case manager at the same time by the system. So and that's not only SCI do. That's actually the most arbitration institutions in China do, and also for the court. And one more thing, we created a electronic link between the arbitration institution and the court to go through and to pass the electronic evidence. So which means usually if the parties, they want to enforce the arbitral award in the court, they could the only thing they need to submit is the arbitral award. The rest of the case materials, they could just use that link I just mentioned. So from the arbitration institution to court directly. So there's no more need for the arbitrator, for parties to, to submit the materials again. But that's only the link only exists between some courts of the institutions. So I think there's more room to enhance and to promote that kind of cooperation. And the second thing I want to mention is about the third-party funding. So according to the Chinese domestic arbitration law, there is no clear rule to talking about allow or forbidden the third-party funding. But usually, in the practice of in China, usually we use the third funding party for the investment arbitration case rather than the private arbitration case. However, there are the different institutions make different choices. For example, by the CTAC and also by the Beijing Arbitration Commission, according to their rules, they the specific regulated that if there is any third party funding in the arbitration cases, the parties should disclose to the tribunal. That is necessary. That's already been written in the rules. But in SCIA, it hasn't been stipulated in the rules because according to our experience, we think maybe, it's it's necessary for both parties and the tribunal to disclose the necessary information. However, if there is, some other kind of situation may not appropriate to disclose the third funding party, the information, maybe the party has the right to, to say that. So what the SCIA do is we did not include such the clause in our rules. However, we written that into the guidebook for the arbitrators. We require all the arbitrators to disclose anything maybe related to the cases, and at the same time, we require the tribunal to consider whether it is important or whether it is necessary to ask the parties to disclose such things. So we think maybe it's more convenient and it's more flexible for tribunal to decide that part. So that's about the third party funding. Also, one more thing is, as you may know, the China is, we are updating the Chinese law. And according to the draft, we just saw the draft now about the arbitration law, there may be some new regulations related to the third party funding in the future. So let's see what we're going on. And the third thing I want to share is about the IP arbitration surgery. Because as you may know, in China, for the IP dispute, I won't say most, but some kinds of IP dispute could only be resolved by the court because that is an administrative issue, like the patents, like the trademarks. But so what could the institution accept it? It's only the IP dispute which could be written in the arbitration agreement in advance. I know most countries have the same issue. So what we trying to do is we trying to create more chance for parties to come back to the table and discuss about the way to resolve the dispute. Let me take a true example. So in China, in the SCIA, we create a mechanism which called the commitment mechanism. As you may know, in Shenzhen, right, the SCIA is based in Shenzhen, and there are so many high technology companies in Shenzhen, such as the Tencent, Huawei, DBJ, Dajiang, the BYD, BYD, and so many, and also another company which called Yushu, they doing the robots who can dancing and who can do many specific things. So such companies are, and also ZTE. So such big companies located in Shenzhen, what we do is we invited them to join SCIA's commitment mechanism. So once the company they sign the agreement, which means if they will be pursued by the other party, and if there is no agreement between the companies, they could still resolve the dispute in the SCI for the IP dispute. What's that mean? For example, so if party A has a cooperation with, let's say, Tencent, okay, so if there is a cooperation from my company with Tencent, but there is no agreement to say that if there's any dispute arise or related to the contract, we should submit the dispute to the SCIA. If there's no such agreement, and if there is IP dispute arise between the two companies, since the Tencent signed the agreement I just mentioned, to commitment, they will accept it, the dispute, the IP dispute being resolved by the arbitration. So if I want to, pursue some money from the Tencent, I could just go to the SCIA and to raise up the arbitration. And the Tencent should be informed, and they are by default to agree that our dispute related to the IP being resolved by China, by the SCIA. So that's one thing we try to, create more trends to pull up both parties who resolve the IP dispute in SCIA by arbitration. So that's the three things I want to share. And thirdly, and also I think most people will take more importance on that, is about the enforcement in China, especially the foreign arbitral awards enforced in China. So here I have three data I want to share. First, per the Superior People's Court, more than 85% of the foreign arbitral awards was recognized and enforced between 2018 to 2023. And aligned with the Singapore and Hong Kong's arbitral awards are the top two jurisdictions who have awards being enforced in China. And also one more thing is, in China, if a court if the court wants to, withdraw or deny to enforce an foreign arbitral award, the courts, they have no right to do that. They have to report it to the Superior Court, and the final decision will be made by the SPC, by the Superior Court. So, this double check system could ensure that the foreign arbitral awards are more safe to be enforced in China. And that's why we say this year China is becoming more pro-arbitration jurisdiction. And and another thing I want to share is the three cases related to the latest development in China. The first is one case in 2050. The 2050, this case is made by a court in a city which called the Hangzhou. And this is important because, this case is important because, let me check, sorry. Yes. This because it is the court recognized the rules included in that case made by other foreign institutions, and the rules may a little bit conflict with the Chinese local law. But according to the court finally decided that even there is a little bit conflict, and the conflict could not be regarded as the violation of the public interest, the court should respect the award made by the tribunal. So in this case, the court finally enforced that award. And the second case is made in 2021. In Xintai case, the court enforced a Hong Kong stated emergency arbitration order. Oh, I know my time is already limited. I will be quick. So, according to Chinese arbitration law, although we support the interim religious, but it raised two cases. And now we have some, and one is I just mentioned from the Hong Kong. The Hong Kong's the Hong Kong tribunal who made an emergency arbitration order. And the third case is about the balance that the public policy expressions with the pre-enforcement principles. So according to the three cases, we could say the China are more prefer to enforce the foreign awards, and also there are more real cases that link the different mechanism, because the arbitration, international arbitration practices are kind of different from the Chinese practice. Like the emergency arbitrator, usually we do not already, our rules support it, but usually we have no need for that. So now we have more cases about that one. And one more thing, oh sorry, I know the time is limited. So is there any question? Please feel free to let me know. Thank you. I will just include it now.
Thank you, Peng, to the entire world, Sandra. We are very happy that after your busy participation in the Russian arbitration week, you have joined here. And your insight was a real interesting one for all of us to take how the institutional arbitrations, which is functioning so effectively in China, why can't it function across the globe, particularly on the global south countries? To add SCIA's role on the specialized arbitration, particularly the IP disputes, can be a good model. And this model, along with several People's Court judgments, also facilitating not only the promotion of institutional arbitration, the way how the draft Chinese arbitration law is proposed, there are some points to even accept the ad hoc arbitrations in future. But anyway, being the Chinese model of having the institutional arbitration as a prime mechanisms to resolve the disputes, which would be taken note as a serious outcome. And as a contemporary development, we also are keen to just explore a long-term collaboration within this global south, particularly with Schengen Court of International Arbitration. Thank you. Thanks for your valuable contribution.
Thank you.